Hello and welcome, movie lovers, to It's Been Real, the podcast where we dissect films purely for the love of it without any formal training. I'm Hannah Murray.
And I'm Graham Hack.
And today we are diving into E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Let's get real.
And here we go.
E.T. home from...
I got a bad feeling about this.
But you have heard of me. You're gonna need a bigger boat. Wax on, wax off.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Life finds a way.
The hard is what makes it great.
And in this moment, I swear, we are infinite.
Okay, so to start off, I feel like I owe any listeners an explanation on my background with this movie. I grew up watching this film almost every weekend. I spent every weekend at my grandparents' house, and they had E.T. on VHS. It was a recorded VHS from TV. It had ads in it with like Campbell Soup commercials from the 90s. And we would go to the local Blockbuster up the street from their house every Friday. We'd pick up a movie. We would watch that movie, and then we would watch E.T. like every week without fail. So this was my childhood movie growing up. It is still to this day my favorite movie. I have a lot of nostalgia and I have a lot of emotions connected to it. So it will be impossible for me to be unbiased at all during this episode. So that's my background with the film. Graham, you just rewatched this film not too long ago.
I did. This is
I want to hear your thoughts, your story.
It's probably the third time I've watched it, maybe, but it's been a long time since I had previously watched it. I think the first time I'm sure I watched it at some point as a kid growing up. I think I watched it again at some point, maybe as like a teenager. And then this is the first time I've watched it as a legit adult. So I definitely hadn't seen it in over a decade, maybe longer. So it felt familiar, but still some pieces and stuff that I didn't remember or remembered it differently, and was definitely experiencing it differently for sure. But in no way the same level of expertise or dedication that you have, Hannah. This episode, I'm definitely going to be playing second fiddle, and that is a-okay. This is your moment, so where I'm going to be here to help facilitate. But this is your time to shine.
Okay. Well, I still want to hear a lot about what you had to think because, like I said, it's impossible for me to remain unbiased. So I want to hear your neutral opinions, right? I think you're probably going to be a better representation of the average listener.
We'll see. We'll see about that. I feel like I might have some unaverage opinions on it, but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. So some background of the film. It was released in 1982. Obviously, Steven Spielberg directing. It has Henry Thomas playing Elliot, a 10-year-old boy who is a child of divorce. You have Peter Coyote playing this government guy who's kind of hunting down E.T., trying to track him down. You have Dee Wallace playing the mom, single mom of 3 kids. You have Robert McNaughton and Drew Barrymore in the sibling roles. A very young Drew Barrymore, a very lovable Drew Barrymore.
Indeed.
And yeah, this film was a huge success at the time. It got about like $790 million at the box office, and it had a budget of $10 million. It still to this day holds the record for the longest theatrical run in history. It was in theaters for over a year, which is insane.
That's crazy.
And it got it's insane. It got 9 Academy Award nominations and won 4 of them. So that's a little bit of the background of the film.
You probably know this, Hannah, but the funny thing about that is this was a film there were major doubts over whether this would resonate with the mainstream audience. It actually bounced around a little bit before a studio finally picked it up. And considering what it ended up becoming, it's just one of those moments where you're thinking about the people who said, I don't know. I don't know if this is really going to be it. I don't think this has legs, this movie. And hate to be that guy or gal who made that call.
Yeah, Universal scored on this one. Columbia Pictures was a studio that passed on ET. And famously, Mars candy would not allow M&Ms to be used as the candy. Originally, that's what Steven Spielberg wanted. And they said, nope, E.T. is too creepy looking. He's too scary. We don't want our brand associated with this movie. And they passed, so Steven Spielberg decided to use Reese's Pieces instead. And Reese's Pieces, their sales increased like 70% over the next month or something crazy like that. They hit the jackpot.
Once again, what a sliding doors moment, as the Brits would say. Yeah, would hate to be Mars candy.
Yeah, hate to be them. But I think, to me, the reason why this is my favorite film, one of the reasons, is I do think this is Steven Spielberg's probably most polished work. Maybe not most polished, but I think it's his most Spielberg film. I think this has like everything that makes Spielberg Spielberg. It's got the John Williams score. It's got good cinematography. It's got amazing performances from some really talented child actors. It's got the special effects, the practical effects. It's got like everything you want in a Spielberg film. I think that Steven Spielberg had really learned from Jaws in this film. And he even said that himself, that with Jaws, he was, obviously struggling a lot. He went way over budget, way over schedule, and he takes a lot of time in the practical effects, and he didn't want to do that this time around. So he got, what was his name? Carlo Rambaldi to do the special effects. He won an Oscar for it. He had done Alien, he had done King Kong, and Steven Spielberg wanted everything to be basically perfect by the time the cameras were rolling. He spent a lot of time pre-production with Carlo Rambaldi, working with E.T., working with the design team, getting all of the effects working. Because he said once the cameras were rolling, once they were on set, he didn't want to have to worry about whether or not things were going to work. He wanted to be solely focused on the actors because he knew he was going to be working with kids and he needed to give them his full attention. And you can see in behind the scenes clips, he was super in the moment with the kids. He tried to really get on their level. He was really having fun with them a lot of the time. He, like on Halloween, he dressed up. They all had like a dress up day on set, and he dressed up as an old lady. So there are like behind the scenes clips of him directing behind the camera, talking to the actors, and he's dressed up as an old lady while he's doing it. Like he just really wanted to be present with the kids. He wanted to be present in the moment and able to give the performances his all, because he felt like he couldn't do that in Jaws. And so I feel he really learned from his mistakes, and it shows. I think it has the gleam to it.
That's so interesting. I know they filmed this movie sequentially for the kids as well, so that way the kids would be experiencing the story as the characters did. The actors would be experiencing it like the characters were. So I don't know if that's related or not, but it is interesting how much he did spend the time to be present in the moment and make sure that how they were filming it was felt in the moment for everybody involved.
Yeah, 100%. He was super invested in the kids having a real, genuine connection with E.T. as much as he could. Drew Barrymore famously thought E.T. was real when she was filming, and she loved E.T. And they tried to keep it that way. Like, they didn't let Drew see any of the behind the scenes, like with the wires coming out of the animatronics or anything like that. They tried to keep it as real, as composed as could be. They didn't let her see like the setup or breakdown. They wanted her to keep this image that E.T. was real. So when she is crying, when E.T. is dying, that is genuine tears. She was genuinely heartbroken, and Steven Spielberg felt so bad. There's a clip of him afterwards. She's still crying after the cameras are off. She's still bawling. She's a wreck, and she's got her little gingerbread doll, and Steven Spielberg is like hugging her, and his face, he looks like he feels so bad. And he's like, here, wipe the tears off your doll, like trying to get her to feel better. And she looks a mess. She is bawling her eyes out. She truly, truly thought E.T. was real.
I hope they didn't have to film that scene more than once or twice.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I hope not too, for her sake. I think in an interview, Steven Spielberg said at times he was doing it, and with those emotional scenes, he was thinking, how close is this to emotional abuse? Is this okay, what I'm doing? Am I actually going to have a huge negative effect on these kids? But I think they, well, okay, I was going to say, I think they ended up okay, but I know they had, specifically Drew Barrymore had some rough patches, but I feel like that was probably more due to the fame than the thinking E.T. was real. But
this is the closest Spielberg would get to Stanley Kubrick
Yeah, basically. Yeah, but I do love the attention and the focus that was put on the kids in this movie, because it's a kids movie, sure, but it's not dumbed down. It feels very true to life, and I think that is why adults can watch it and still love it. My grandparents, the reason we watch this movie every weekend is because my Meemaw loved this film. She loved E.T. So it was something that it wasn't just kids that were connecting with this movie. If it was just the kids, then it wouldn't have had the staying power and the impact it's had.
Right.
Everyone connected with this film. It was all audiences. It's a true 4-quadrant film, and it's not because I think nowadays that when they try to make a movie for everyone, they do this smorgasbord where they're like, okay, here are some like potty jokes for the kids, and here are some disguised adult jokes for the adults, and one isn't going to get the other, and that's fine. They can just like take what they want and leave the rest. But with E.T., there's no leaving the rest. It's all for everyone, and I think it's because it's from the kids' point of view, but it's still so true to life in how it's told. All of their interactions feel real. Everything is from their point of view. The camera was about 3 feet high in most of the scenes. So you're seeing things from E.T.'s perspective. You're seeing things from Elliot's perspective. You're seeing it through their eyes. All of the adults don't have faces except for the mom, because as a kid, who is the main adult who's real to you? Your parents. The other kids or the other adults are kind of like, Charlie Brown. They're just wah, wah, wah. They're just faces hovering above you. They're not real to you. So we don't see their faces until we get into the medical scene where they're actually interacting. And even then, they're scary and they're in these suits. And then we see Peter Coyote's face when he actually comes and has a conversation with Elliot. So it's not until these adults actually have interactions with the kids that they become real in the movie, right? Because it's all through the kids' eyes. I think Melissa Matheson, who wrote the script for this, is brilliant in her script writing. I think she said she spent a lot of time with like her nieces and nephews. She didn't have kids at the time, but she tried to spend a lot of time with kids in her life so she could kind of study how they talk to each other and study their interactions and try to make them sound like real kids in the movie. And you can tell, it's like some of my favorite lines are just these kid lines, like Drew Barrymore saying, "Is he wearing any clothes?"
Right.
Like that feels like such a kid thing to ask. Like, of course he's not wearing clothes. You see him right in front of you. But like a kid would be like, is he wearing clothes? Is he a boy or girl? Right? Like those are all the questions a kid would ask when they first saw an alien. It wouldn't be, where do you come from? What are you here for? Right? It's not this dramatized thing we think people should ask in those plots. It's actually what a kid would say.
Right.
And the way they joke around with each other, right? Michael joking around with Elliot and teasing him and saying, oh, he came back, and messing around with him, and oh, maybe it was a leprechaun or an elf. Like, it's just, it all feels like, yeah, this is an older brother messing with his younger brother. And that's basically all he does until Elliot actually needs him.
Right.
And then he turns into a really good older brother. I love how true to life it feels. It's one of the things I love about this movie is the realism.
It's very authentic, yes.
I think you need the realism.
Yeah. There's another scene that where Elliot comes back frightened and is saying, "Don't go out there," and then they all grab the knives and go out there. That's another one that's like a class, like they nailed that spot on for how would the older brother and his teenage friends act to the younger brother who they're picking on. But of course they knew the opposite thing. Of course they are, right? Yeah, like you said, it just adds to the authenticity. It makes it feel very real. I know one of the things too is you kind of think of a Spielberg. The idea in your head of a Spielberg movie like this, especially set around you're like, oh, it's like idyllic, set like suburban 80s, but there's not a whole lot idyllic about it. And you've got a family that has just experienced divorce. There is chaos in the home, hard feelings going around. You're even experiencing the fallout from it with the phone call with Elliot and his dad, and telling the mom about where he's at in Mexico. And it's very real, and actually a little bit gritty, maybe not be the word, but it's not happy, good vibes feeling where we're plugged into in this story, where we're entered into. So it's not, it has some grit to it in a way that maybe the perception doesn't indicate. It's like, oh, it's E.T., it's like this kid's movie about an alien, but it has a lot in it that connects with many different ages of an audience, and people that have experienced harder times than that. The movie kind of encapsulates them a lot more than just, like I said, the idyllic family and an adventure.
Yeah, for sure. Out of curiosity, do you know some of the inspiration behind this movie, like Steven Spielberg's background?
I know. I do know it's a little bit of autobiographical in a way.
Yes.
So I know that I know that he had an imaginary friend, and E.T. sort of represents the imaginary friend that he had and how he was dealing with some of these. Like he actually kind of represents a few different characters in it. He represents Elliot in some ways. He also represents Michael in some ways, picking on his younger siblings, and so it's kind of an amalgamation of a lot of experiences in his own life that he put into this film. That's what I know of anyway. Yes,
you're exactly right. Yeah, he had wanted to make a film. He'd been wanting to make a film about his experience as a child of divorce, because it was something that was really fundamental for him, how he ended up the way he was and his upbringing and some of the hardships he'd experienced in his life. That was like a really big moment for him. And I think he felt like this concept of divorce wasn't often portrayed in films. So he wanted to do that. He'd been wanting to do that. And at some point, I think a studio wanted him to make a follow-up to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So he had done a treatment for this follow-up that was going to be called Night Skies. And it was basically going to be these aliens come back and they're like terrorizing a family and they leave, but they leave one behind. And that didn't end up really going anywhere. But what he did was he kind of recycled that premise and combined it with that film he wanted to make that was more autobiographical about being a child of divorce and about his experience with that. And that's how he got E.T. And he had met Melissa Matheson, the screenwriter, on the set of Indiana Jones. I think was she dating Harrison Ford at the time? Something like that. She wasn't working on Indiana Jones, I don't believe. I think she was there with someone who was working on Indiana Jones, but I think she already had some experience as a writer at that point. And so he had talked to her about what he wanted to do, and she put it together in the first draft of the script, which was called E.T. and Me. And Steven Spielberg absolutely loved it. He said that she was able to take basically what was in his head and make it reality with that first script. And it went through a few rewrites after that, but he said a lot that was in that first script was really just exactly what he was picturing. So that's kind of how E.T. came to be. But yeah, so the grittiness, the realness, the emotion, right? I think Steven Spielberg's own experiences probably came to influence that. And I think there's a lot of things in E.T. that aren't spoon-fed to you. You just pick up on it and you kind of see the pain through little things. Like one of my favorite things is in the film, Drew Barrymore calls their mom Mary.
Yes.
She says, "Okay, I won't marry," when the mom says, "Don't let them torture you." And it's not ever explained, but you get the sense, right? Like that the relationship is fractured in some way. That's my read on it anyway, that the relationship is fractured on some way. And maybe the kids aren't calling their mom, right? Or at least Drew Barrymore has decided it's okay to call her mom Mary. And she's a little kid, so maybe, who knows? Maybe she heard one of the other kids do it because they were mad at her one day, and so she just picked it up. We don't know. We don't get the full explanation, but you get enough to be like, oh yeah, something's off. Right. It's not all perfect. And I love Dee Wallace. I love her character. I think they did a great job pulling off that the mom wouldn't know, but it's not, I don't read her character as like this dumb blonde. I think there's a lesser version of this movie that would have her character be an oblivious housewife. And that's how the kids are able to pull the wool past her and, have E.T. in this house. But like throughout the film, she's just busy. She's a single mom of 3 kids. She is busy. She's got a lot on her plate, right? She's like trying to get Elliot, when Elliot's sick, she's like going around, she's folding, a comforter. She's getting stuff out. She's walking in and out. She's telling Michael to back the car out of the garage. She's trying to get Gertie out to go to school. She comes back when Gertie has E.T. in the house, and there's that whole, like, it's almost like it could be a silent slapstick film where, E.T.'s followed her in the kitchen and she hits him with the door and all of that. But the whole time, she's not absent-minded. She's on the phone because her son is drunk at school, and she's also just picked up groceries, and she's also trying to put away laundry, and also Gertie is trying to talk to her, and she's got a lot going on. So yeah, she didn't see the little thing running around in her house in the background. So I just feel like all the characters are done justice. They feel like real people, And I think you need the grounding, you need the grit, you need the realism in this film because the idea of it is so fantastical that this alien would come back and make friends with the boy. It's, so not true to life. It's so imaginative that you need the people to feel real. You need to have these believable moments. Yes, absolutely, it balances it. Otherwise, this would just be another kid's adventure film, right? This would be a family adventure flick. Then it would have a normal, screening. And it would make some money, and people would remember it as just that film I watched growing up, and that would be it, But right. I think the grit does bring that balance to it that you need.
Agreed. I think every single of these main characters feels like somebody that you might know, or that you could at least believe was a real person, and their reactions to everything that happens is very believable, from the kids and how they would interact with an alien to a mom dealing with their kids behaving a little strangely. All of those things, yeah, they definitely come across as authentic, and you could buy it, which, like you said, it helps keep in check the fantastical elements that are also at play in the movie, and it keeps it from getting off the rails of being too fantastical in that way and too cheesy.
Yeah. There was a sequel for this. Did you know about the sequel by chance?
I did not know this.
So yeah, there was a sequel that Steven Spielberg did a treatment for at some point because it was a huge success, right? So of course people want you to do a sequel and make them more money. So he tried to imagine what would happen if the story continued. And he had this idea that he would flip it. So instead of E.T. being stuck on Earth, it would be Elliot and his friends get kidnapped by other aliens, and E.T. has to come save them. And I'm so glad that sequel did not get made, because Steven Spielberg is amazing, right? I think he would make it good, but I don't see that film having what E.T. has, right? The grit, the pain that's in it, that's laced through it, right? The growth that Elliot has to go through. And that, to me, sounds like what E.T. could have been, that typical family adventure flick where you're like, great, that was fun. That's it, Yeah, I'm so glad that didn't happen. But it did end up in there was a book called E.T. and the Green Planet that was like the follow-up to it that I have not read. And we learn a little bit more about E.T. in that book, though. So we have a lot of lore about E.T. and his people.
Is this where some of the stuff down the Universal ride comes from?
Yes.
Because I have a distinct memory of walking through the line in that ride and someone talking about the Green Planet and things like that from E.T.
Yeah. So yeah, E.T. the ride is the longest running Universal Orlando attraction opening. That's the only remaining opening day ride. It's based on that book, E.T. and the Green Planet, and that concept of the sequel. And the plot of the ride is basically that E.T. needs your help. The Green Planet is dying, and E.T. needs to get back to his planet. So it's changed a little bit from that original concept Steven Spielberg had from the sequel, but it's basically the plot of that is what the book E.T. and the Green Planet is, as I understand it. So yeah, you have to get E.T. back to the Green Planet, and you meet his friends. Botanicus is like his mentor, and you have Tikli and all these other characters that are Proto-Osogians are the name of E.T.'s alien race. They're Proto-Osogians. So that's where the ride comes from. It's it is more fantastical, right? I love the ride too, but I just am glad it doesn't have a movie for it.
Well, Spielberg also doesn't have the greatest track record with sequels. They're not terrible, but they're none of the sequels except for maybe Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade are truly masterpieces. Unless I'm forgetting something, but nothing comes to mind that hits the heights of the originals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, probably for the best.
Probably. Yeah, very glad that didn't get made. Oh, so the other things that we do learn about E.T. though from that book is that his real name is Zrek. His name is not E.T.
This is the original Shrek movie?
Well, he's not green, so. But yeah, his name is Zrek, and he is not a boy or a girl. There's actually, the Proto-Osogians don't have gender in the same way we do. And his anatomy is actually closer to a plant than an animal. So like actually that was decided when they were making the first E.T., the only E.T., the movie. But they when his heart glows, you can kind of see like the anatomy inside is actually supposed to resemble more of a plant than anything else.
Interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting. So yeah, he's supposed to be like more plant than anything else. His people are botanists, so that's the reason they're on Earth. Is they're cultivating life, right? They're studying the life on Earth, the plants, and that's why you see E.T. pick up that plant, right? And he, cares for the flowers throughout the film. The flowers kind of, give you a clue as to how E.T.'s health is. So yeah, that's the lore of him. He is a botanist Proto-Sovian who was just haphazardly landed on Earth and is stuck there.
Another good piece that's probably best not spoon-fed to the audience, but just lets it sort of stand on its own.
100%.
Yes.
I think you can actually thank George Lucas for the name Proto-Sovian because, there's the scene with Yoda.
Yes.
And E.T. says, home, right? And Steven Spielberg did that as a nod to George Lucas. So George Lucas later, right, in, I think, Phantom Menace, put E.T. people, Proto-Sovians, in the Senate.
That's right.
Represented them in the background of Star Wars. And since every single thing on Star Wars has to have a name, he dubbed them Proto-Sovians. So we have the George Lucas to thank for their actual species name.
Of course. It totally tracks. An outrageous name that could only come up or created in the mind of George Lucas.
Yeah. I do want to take it back to some of the themes though, because you said we're talking about like what like E.T. kind of represents, right? He represented Spielberg's imaginary friend, and he can represent a few different things, I think. Out of curiosity, I want to hear your breakdown on this. What do you think is, I guess, the main message or the main thing that E.T. the character is representing?
I've had to think about it. I feel like well, maybe it's not so much what E.T. represents. Maybe my answer will lead me to come to a conclusion about what E.T. represents. But I do know that one of the things that E.T. does is he brings different things out of Elliot in the way, and so Elliot is changed from his interactions with E.T. and it gives him something in his life as a kid who's without a father figure and sort of the middle child, right? Sort of lost in the sauce a bit of just life and the chaos of what's going on. It gives him something that is driving him. It gives him some hope, and it gives him more confidence, and he starts to like loosen up and take action as a character as well. You see him now. Granted, this is a moment where he's drunk, but you see him in the classroom losing inhibitions, right, and doing certain things. Like I said, that's maybe not a great example, but there's just other pieces about it that he's growing as a character. So maybe you could use for the analogy, if E.T. is truly a botanist, that he is growing something, cultivating something within Elliot and himself.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's a terrible answer. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think to me, E.T. does represent a few different things, and I think it's funny because it's a coming of age movie, but I don't know that Elliot grows up per se. Like, I don't think he matures. I think it's actually the opposite. It seems like at the beginning he is a little detached, right? Like he feels almost more grown up than he does at the end of the movie.
Yes, exactly. He's not turning him into an adult. It's like he's turning him back into a kid, like he should be.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's like restoring him, right? Like the flowers. He's restoring Elliot. So I think to me, what E.T. represents is like this childlike sense of wonder that you like carry without you. And as you go through things in life, you like kind of lose that shine. You lose that way you see the world, and you can get kind of checked out. So I think to me, E.T. is like, because he does it the same thing for Gertie and for Michael too, right? It's like the whole family is kind of healed. Not And that's not to say it's perfect. I think they're still going to have their pain. They're still going to have, like, I don't think anything physical or external will change, right? The ET doesn't come and save the day because the dad comes back, right? It's not that suddenly they no longer have any hard feelings. It's not anything like that. I think it's just that they now have a different perspective on life. They know what it means to be connected and to actually be present. They know how to connect with one another better. And it's like, they just have more intentionality is my read on it. So like, if we take how Elliot interacts with Michael's friends at the beginning, for example, right? They're playing D&D and he's like, I'm ready to play now, you guys. And, you know, they're like, oh, you can't just join any universe in the middle. He kind of begs them. And they're like, all right, yeah, go get the pizza and you can join us. Like, they clearly don't really want Elliot to join them. And I don't think it's not because they don't like Elliot. It's because, you know, they're older kids and they don't really want the little brother hanging around. It's, you know, very stereotypical. So after E.T. leaves, I don't know that the friends suddenly want Elliot hanging around. You know, I don't think anything in Elliot's life is actually going to physically change a ton. I think he's still going to have moments where he feels left out, right? I think at school, his friends aren't going to suddenly, you know, think he's the coolest guy, that girl that he was crushing on or whatever. Like, who knows whether they, you know, they get together or not. We don't know. It doesn't matter, though. Like, none of that. We don't need those questions answered. We don't need to see that Elliot's life is perfect after. What matters is that Elliot now has a different perspective, and that is going to help him get through those hard things, right? It's a heart shift and a mind shift, not an external shift. And I love that that's how E.T. saves him, right? He's not saving him through anything physical. It's all like an internal saving, which just also, I've heard so many things that like E.T. represents a Christ figure. So now that I say an internal saving, it really feels like it's driving that point home. But
That's so funny. I mean, it's true. Like, to reference back to the scene you're mentioning with Gertie trying to talk to her mom, and her mom's busy for good reason. It's very authentic, right? But she is, as an adult, focused on the busy things of life and is not able to. She's sort of just like too consumed with what's going on to even notice ET or anything happening like that. And yeah, it's like by the end, ET has changed their perspective and what they're able to pay attention to and what they're focused on. And yeah, that's a great analysis of it.
Had enough watches to cook up that one.
Okay, I guess I need another 25 to 30. Maybe I'll have one nearly as good as yours. But
yeah. Have you, out of curiosity, seen any of the auditions for this movie?
I have not.
So there is a clip of Henry Thomas auditioning, and I do recommend you watch it because it's so good. So Steven Spielberg basically had him improv a scene for an audition, which is crazy. I don't know how old Henry Thomas was when he auditioned, but I feel like I think he was 12 when they were filming, so he's probably about that age. So to ask a 12-year-old to improv a scene with the Steven Spielberg, like, you can just, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be so intimidated. So they improved a scene where the government is coming to take away E.T. And so Henry is improving with, you know, someone reading lines or whatever, and the person is saying basically, like, yeah, we're going to come take away E.T. And Henry Thomas said that at the time, he was thinking of his dog who had died, and he like let loose the waterworks. He's crying. He's saying, you can't take him. He's my best friend. Right. Like, he absolutely brings it. It's so good. You have to watch it. And at the end of the clip, you hear Steven Spielberg's voice. He's like Henry Thomas has just like cried. He's still got tears on his face. And Steven Spielberg speaks up and he says, okay, kid, you got the part. And just in that moment, gave it to him because he was like, yeah, this kid's got it. He's our Elliot.
That's amazing.
I think it's cool that they like let the kids use their imagination for the part. Like Drew Barrymore, supposedly when she was auditioning, she actually auditioned for Poltergeist and got this role instead because Steven Spielberg couldn't see her as like the horror role. But she auditioned for the lead role in Poltergeist, and when she auditioned, she supposedly kept like pretending she wasn't auditioning for a movie and she was like in a rock band. And she was saying like, no, I'm not here to audition. I'm in a rock band. And she was like 4. So and Steven Spielberg loved her imagination. He thought she had this like just great this great way of thinking differently. And she played it straight, even when she was pretending that she was, in a rock band. And yeah, I'm not auditioning. I'm not an actress. I'm a rock star. So he ended up casting her for this role instead. I think for the better. I think I could not imagine a different person in this role. Granted, it's kind of hard to imagine a small child in a role, but I don't know. I think Drew Barrymore is so perfect as Gertie. She's so lovable.
It's the cuteness mixed with actual acting talent. Yeah, it'd be a hard combo to pass.
Yep. She supposedly ad-libbed the line too when they're in Elliot's room, and she says, "I don't like his feet," and Henry Thomas says, "They're only feet, it's work." That was improv. Drew Barrymore just improv that she didn't like E.T.'s feet, and Steven Spielberg thought it was so cute, and he's like, "That's exactly something that Gertie would say," so we kept it in. Yeah, I just love the little details. The details in this movie just make it for me. Like, I could spend all day just talking about the details alone. In that scene, there's E.T. is eating, and there's a puppeteer who's working his hands, and there's some watermelon that gets caught on his lip, on the puppet's lip, and she sees it from down below where she is, and she like just pushes the food like into his mouth. It's like such a subtle moment, and it looks so natural, and it's like just a little thing that like makes him feel more real. And I don't know, I love all the little things that came together. E.T., how he gets his name when Elliot comes up to Michael's friends and they're waiting for the bus, and the friend Greg is saying like, "Oh, an extra-terrestrial," right? That's the only time we hear the like word up until that point, extra-terrestrial said. So we can assume that Elliot heard extra-terrestrial, thought it sounded cool. Later on, was scribbling on his notebook and wrote E.T., right? And he's like drawing him because his older brother's friend said it and it sounded cool, and he's like, "Yeah, that's his name now. It's E.T." Like, I don't know. It's just all those little things.
Very believable.
Very believable. Yeah. And then when Gertie comes in and she first sees E.T. in Elliot's room, right? She comes in and she's saying, Elliot, look what I made for you." If you look, she's got a get well card that she made for Elliot because he stayed home from school sick. So it's just so many itty bitty little things that they didn't have to put in, right? You don't have to put in a little get well card that, Gertie drew for Elliot. You don't have to have the older brother's friend say, "Oh, extra-terrestrial," and then later show Elliot drawing it. Like, you don't have to do any of it, but it just makes all the pieces connect for me. It's a flawless film for me because of those reasons. Like, I can't poke holes in it because I'm like, they thought of everything. There's like a detail in that movie for everything that you could think of, I think.
All right, so are you ready for my unconventional takes? I suppose.
Yes.
Because I say that unconventional because this movie has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, this is whether this is everyone's favorite movie, like it is yours. I think pretty universally everyone agrees this is an incredible film. And I agree. I think it is a very objectively, this is an incredibly well made film. I find myself now, I experienced it differently watching it this time as I did the other times, but I still have, interestingly enough, for whatever reason, my feeling takeaways from the movie are the same, which is that it's not one of my favorite Spielberg films, and I try to think about why it's not one of my favorites. I think I do compare it to, and I know you haven't seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, so I won't go into too much detail there. But one of the things about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because those two movies are the most similar movies. That's the most similar movie to E.T. in my mind that Spielberg did. Both alien movies, obviously, but different approaches in terms of how they did it. I really like Close Encounters. Close Encounters is a lot about mystery and intrigue, and that there's that thread is pulling you through that movie a little bit about what's all happening here. There's something going on, so it has that. And then the character depth is something that's really special in this. And I think I agree in this movie, everything about this movie is done extremely well. The characters are incredibly authentic. I find myself struggling to love these characters in the same way. Like, I think they're good, they're well done, but I find myself not as emotionally invested in Elliot or Gertie or Michael. And maybe it's just because they are so authentic as sort of somewhat rebellious, finding their way kids in the 80s. I don't know. I don't know what it is about that in them, but I find them maybe almost too normal. I don't know. It's hard to it's hard to say for me. Like, there's not one thing that I can say about those characters. I'm like, I really like this about that character. I really like this about this character. Like, maybe Elliot's thing is the earnestness that he acts with, right, in his care, how he attaches to E.T. I think that's a redeemable quality, right, that can be appreciated. But there's not one other thing about Elliot that makes me go, oh man, I really love Elliot because of this. Like, this really makes him set apart for me as a character, that he's got this thing, either this vulnerability or this skill or this smarts or something about that makes me go, and I'm really satisfied watching and enjoying these things. I think I find one of the most satisfying scenes is honestly the scene with Gertie talking to her mom and E.T. walking around. It's probably my favorite scene in the movie, just because I think it's hilarious. It's a very funny scene. Like, there's depth going on in it, obviously, but it's just like, it's a super well done scene. There's a lot of other scenes that there's a lot of emotion behind it, but yeah, I've struggled to connect in the same way. And I also think that the movie sets itself up to be a movie, like the plot is fairly simple, and that fairly early on we pick up that where we're going with this movie is it's about getting E.T. home. Now, obviously, there's a whole lot going on to get there, and that's where all the depth of the characters and the storytelling, and there's a whole lot that they're saying within that very simplistic story shell, if you will. But what that does for me then is like, okay, so this movie's not about the plot. This movie is about the characters and about the moments. So you're really putting all your eggs in that basket. And I feel like if you really love the characters, you really love the moments in this film, then this movie is going to be awesome, right? But it's one of those movies that it puts all its eggs in that basket. So for me, when I'm not resonating nearly as much with those characters, then it doesn't have as much else to go on for me to latch on to. It's like, okay, well, I didn't love that part as much, but I really, this plot really has me going. I don't know what's going to happen next. Like, it's got me on the edge of my seat. So not, like I said, not that it has to. It obviously, by all accounts, has done this part really, really well. Music is incredible. The theming, the feel of it is really great. So I love all those parts of it. But yeah, I that's what I've landed on so far. I maybe I'll change my mind and figure out what pinpoint it more specifically than that. But that's my best guess. Is I think it is a bit of a character thing that I just struggle to resonate with them.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know that I would say that I like love the characters. I think I care about the characters for sure, but I don't think there are qualities about the characters I'm like, oh, I really love that Elliot is the same as you. Elliot's not a kid that I watch and I go like, oh, I want to hang out with that kid. That's a cool kid, right? Like, it's not anything like that. I think what makes me care about them though is seeing how their emotions transform, and I have an emotional investment in them because of that. Like, I think we see that Elliot throughout most of the movie is acting like he doesn't care for the most part. Like, he wants to play with his older brother's friends, right, at the beginning, and they're like kind of giving him a hard time, but he's just kind of like persisting, and he has to go pick up the pizza, and he like, it doesn't seem like it, like he's acting like it bothers him at all that they don't want him to, like, he feels like he's like acting like it doesn't, like, he's not bothered by things, right?
Right. He's
kind of like
the vibe I
get.
He's trying to hide it a bit.
Yeah. He's fronting. But yeah. I think when we see him with E.T., he drops it, right? He drops the facade and he allows himself to care and he allows himself to be vulnerable. And I think we see for the first time Elliot actually caring for someone. Right, when E.T.'s first in his room and Elliot's come, is staying homesick, and we see E.T. like slowly walking out, and he's a little cautious, and Elliot saying like, it's okay, like, and he goes to get the food, and he says, I'll be right here, right? Like, he's like comforting him, he's trying to protect him from Harvey, who's barking at him, like, he's I don't know, he's like showing, like, when he takes E.T. in, he's like, okay, so what do I do now? Okay, I'll show you everything that's in my room, right? I'll show you all my toys. I'll show you, like, this is a car. This is what we get around in. Like, he's trying to educate E.T. on what he thinks E.T. should know, which for a 10-year-old kid is, I show you my toys, right? Like, I show you my action figures. This is Lando Calrissian, right? Like, that's my Star Wars action figures are something you need to know as
His
an alien
Greedo,
species.
the Greedo figure, the Greedo, legendary moment.
Yes. Yeah, but like, I think it's that, right? I think those are the moments where I care about Elliot. It's not because he has like a trait that I love about him. It's not like I'm like, oh, he's such a compassionate person, or oh, he's such a smart character. He's just a kid, but he's struggling with something. And I think when you see who he really is with E.T., when you see like, oh, this is who the kid actually is, right? That he actually cares. To me, that's what takes the emotional journey for me. And that's what gets me invested in the characters. Like, I bawl every single time I watch this movie, from the time that E.T. gets like sick all the way through the end. That entire like third act, I am bawling my eyes out. And it's because I will say, of the characters, E.T. is the one I like. And
Fair.
he is seemingly like, he doesn't have a ton of personality because we don't really get to hear him talk a lot. But you get to see through his actions. He's kind. He's very smart. He's very curious. I think that's what I like about E.T. is you see he's a little bit different from the other aliens, I think, because that's why he gets lost, right?
Right.
He goes off because he's going off
to
to look and exploring, and he's liking everything he sees around him, and he gets so caught up, he gets lost. So he's a very curious character, and I think we see that he is open-minded, and he is kind, and he cares deeply. Like, he forms these strong emotional bonds, and granted, he has like this empathic, ability, but
Right.
I think so. E.T. is the character that I'm like, oh, I like that character. So when we see him get sick, I am devastated. I'm like, no, not E.T. He's so pure. He's too pure for this earth, literally. Like, please don't touch him. But then what really kicks it into gear for me is when Elliot is so desperate, right? Like, he is desperate when he's on that hospital bed for them to stop touching E.T., to stop messing with him, just leave him alone, please.
Right.
You're gonna kill him, please leave him alone. His desperation, I think it's the most heightened we see Elliot. He plays it cool a lot of the time, and he just drops all of it, and he's like, no, please just help my friend, right? That's in his moment, that's all he cares about. He's like, no, please help my friend. And even when, this is something to my interpretation of the film, when E.T. goes and Elliot comes back, right? What's happening there, I think, is that, and this might be an obvious read, I don't know, I watched this film as a kid, so like when I made these connections, I thought they were groundbreaking. So this might just be an obvious read of the film, I don't know. But I read it as, it's not that Elliot is getting better and E.T. is getting worse. E.T. is severing the connection between them to save Elliot, and Elliot doesn't want that. Like, he does not want that. He wants, and even their dialogue on that moment, right, is E.T., saying, or Elliot saying, "Stay with me, E.T." Right? Like, right. I don't know. Those are the moments that get me, because I'm like, we see what the characters actually are caring about. We see them vulnerable in those moments, and I don't know, get to see that Elliot has been playing it cool all this time, and he drops it in that moment, right? He's so desperate. It gets me every time. So like, yeah, I think my emotional investment isn't because I love the characters and their qualities. It's because I just care about them, right? I don't have to think a kid is like the coolest kid or the smartest kid or has qualities I like. I still am going to care about a kid, right? Like, in my real life, right? And when I see a kid like be vulnerable, and I see a kid being genuine, and I see a kid being hurt, like, that's something I'm going to have an emotional reaction to, because I'm a human, right? So I think that's why I love this movie so much, and I get the emotional investment. I don't have to like the characters and who they are. Like, I don't have to think they have the most redeemable qualities. I'm just like, no, he is a kid, and he has things he cares about, and those things are being jeopardized, and he grows in the film, and like, that's what does it for me. I actually think probably the best character in the film is Michael, the older brother, who we don't see a ton of, because he has more of an arc, and you do get to see more of his personality, I think.
His arc is pretty good, and how that's one of, so there were two things that I two major things anyway that were different watching the second, or I guess the third time, whatever this is for me, watching it this point rather than previously. And one of them was Michael, in that I just remembered the chaos and the tensions of the characters and the siblings together, and seeing his arc and how it does make him, I think, like a really interesting and authentic older brother character, and that there's the picking, there's the tension, there's all that stuff. But when it's needed, he switches into, oh, I'm the older brother. All right, I get it. You're not crazy. I need to help you out. I'm going to look out for you, right? This protective older brother nature kicks in. And I think that is pretty cool. And he that does make him a more interesting and a character with more redeeming quality that I did appreciate this time, seeing it in that way, for understanding it in that way for that time. Maybe as an older brother myself, that felt more relatable in that way. But I did enjoy that this time and appreciate that arc more than I had previously, or just maybe noticed it more than I had previously.
Yeah. I think I like too that they included this. It's such a short scene where he's on the bus, and you see like all these kids around him just like throwing stuff at each other and being rambunctious, and he's just sitting there quietly. And it doesn't, like, nothing is said in the scene, but you see that he's like struggling with stuff too, right? He's not fitting in with his peers 100% either. He has his friend group, right? But like at school, he seems like he's kind of a loner. He seems like he's kind of quiet. He's just kind of sitting there amongst the chaos, and he's probably thinking about, whatever's going on in his family and at home or whatever, right? Like you see that he's struggling too, but like it doesn't let you dwell on it, because just like an older brother, right? Like he's got stuff to do, right? He's got this younger brother that he's got to give a hard time, and I think in a way he's probably trying to restore some of the normalcy. Like I think that scene informs a lot about Michael, right? Because if he is like he was with Elliot at school on the bus, then you would say this is Michael. But he's not. He's different with Elliot. It's specifically with like his family. So I think that informs, to me anyways, like he is, I think, trying to restore normalcy despite what he's going through, right? He's not going to treat his brother any differently. He's still going to give him a hard time. He's still going to like pick on him and tease him and make fun of him and stuff like that. And I don't think it's because he's mean. I think it's because he's trying to be the best older brother he knows how to be, you know?
Right. He's trying to make it like not weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And even when they fight, right? Like the dinner scene is my favorite scene in this film, when, they're Dee Wallace's character as the mom says like, well, if you see it again, don't try to touch it. Just, let me know and we'll call someone. And, they're talking about what it could be. And, it ends with basically Elliot saying, or Dee Wallace's character saying, why don't you call your father and tell him about it? And Elliot says, I can't. He's in Mexico with Sally. She gets up and cries, right? And that's when Michael's character gets mad at Elliot. It's like the only time we actually see him get upset at Elliot. And he says, why don't you grow up and think how other people feel for a change? And it's so funny because that's almost the thesis of the film. Like Elliot does learn how to think how other people feel, right? That is what he learns from E.T. That's a big lesson he learns from E.T. He doesn't grow up, but he does learn how to, think about how other people feel. And I think it's such a fun moment. Like that's what Michael gets mad at Elliot for, right? Is for making their mom upset. It's not for like, they have the whole thing where like talking about who's going to do the dishes right after that. It's not Elliot, like Michael doesn't get mad at Elliot about that. It's about, you went too far. You made mom upset. We're all hurting. Don't do that. But in that line, the think how other people feel, like that's what we're going to see Elliot do, right? We just haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
I don't know. I love the dinner scene. It feels that to me is like the scene in Jaws where you have Brody at dinner with his kid and the kid is like mimicking. It's to me that like those are the scenes in those Spielberg films that, or I'm like, oh, Spielberg gets it. Like he just gets what it is to be a human and to portray it well. So I think the dinner scene in E.T. is that for me, where I'm like, you see the family dynamics, you see the hurt, you see them joking with each other, you see all of it, right? Even when Elliot stands up and yells at Michael and he's like, it was nothing like that penis breath, which by the way, Henry Thomas did not want to say that line. He tried to refuse, and Melissa Matheson had to basically be like, no, you gotta say it. But when he said it, his delivery of it was so perfect. Dee Wallace, it actually like caught her off guard, and you see her laugh when she's like, Elliot, and she laughs and she says, sit down. That was not supposed to be delivered that way. She actually genuinely laughed in the moment, and they kept it. But I'm like, yeah, a mom would laugh if she heard her kid stand up and say that, right? Like,
it's like, oh man, that actually was pretty good, but I can't let it
Yeah.
slide. But I can't help but react to it. Yeah.
Anyways, we're probably gonna have to cut this at some point because
Yeah.
I could keep going.
That's fair. I'll give you the one other thing that I've noticed differently on this watch, and that was the character of Keys. I remember as a kid watching. I think I watched from the perspective of a kid, thinking that Keys is the bad guy, and my perception even going into this was like, oh yeah, I remember that he was the scary one who's like, trying to figure out what's going on. Then watching it, I'm like, oh, actually, Keys is just like Elliot grown up, and he's actually like quite a good character trying to actually help. And that was just funny to me, remembering that as a kid, how the kid's perspective of, the scary man is trying to find ET, and I got to protect, it very much, I guess that shows that it really puts you in the mode of the character of the kid as a kid watching. It's a very believable characterization of Keys. So it was just funny watching that on the second time or third time and having me like, oh, actually, this is a pretty good character.
Yeah. I think that's worth mentioning, that the villains in this movie aren't villains. There are no villains, really, right? They're just people who are trying their best. Even I know I told you about this before, but the medical doctors who are trying, that is an actual team of doctors and nurses from I think USC, University of South Carolina. So that is a team of actual medical doctors and nurses, and they are just ad-libbing and saying what they would normally say in that situation. Keys is just, he wants ET to live too. He doesn't want ET to die. He just doesn't know how to help them. They are just ill-equipped professionals doing their best.
Right.
But as a kid, all you see is the effects, and that makes them a villain. I feel like there's probably like a really deep moral thing you could get into there about how kids don't see motivation. They see the outcomes, right? Like they don't see, if a parent is busy with work, they don't see the motivation of they're trying to provide. They just see, oh, you're not there, right? You're not here. You're not spending time with me.
Right.
Like I think there's a message there somewhere, but
no, honestly, you're probably right. You think about that, it's the results, so they don't see. On the flip side, they might also not see the bad motivations that somebody might have, and the characteristics and how someone might be not the best, but the results are good and how they're getting treated. So they might see it as, oh, it's good. Yeah, that's an interesting thread to pull for another day, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, so we have our end games for this. We have casting call and we have related recommendations. So casting call, who would you cast in this movie if it were made today? I honestly think this is an impossible ask.
Oh, man.
I don't think you can recast the kids. I don't think you should even try.
It's also such a limited pool to pull from and to do it in this way. I do think their performances are all so good. Yeah, I'm trying to think. The only one I can think of is, I forget what his name is, but the kid, honestly, he would need to be a better actor. No offense, but the kid from the new Percy Jackson show.
Oh, yeah.
I could see him, from a looks and appearances and mannerisms, he could pull off Elliot, I think.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it would be a dip in acting quality.
Yeah.
At least based on the Percy Jackson show, at least.
Yeah. I think the two characters that would be the easiest to recast would be Peter Coyote's character, Keys, and Dee Wallace as the mom, Mary. I don't know for Dee Wallace, honestly. Because I don't think you can cast anyone too big.
Right.
Fun fact, if you didn't know this, I know we're done talking mostly about the movie, but Harrison Ford was originally had a minor part in this movie. He was going to play a scene with the principal
Oh wow.
after Elliot gets pulled from school, and they filmed it. It's a deleted scene. You can look it up. But they ended up cutting it because Steven Spielberg felt like having a name like Harrison Ford in the movie would just detract from it.
Right.
And I think he's right. But so they tried very intentionally to not have someone too big come in to detract. So I don't think you can cast anyone that's too well known.
Right.
Which makes it challenging.
It does, because we probably can't. Well, I'll speak for myself. I don't know if I'm good enough to be able to name someone who is not noteworthy enough to be named, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the only like person that I have is for Peter Coyote's character, and I think someone who would be interesting. I don't know if you know who this person is. We'll see. His name was Michiel Huisman, I think is how you say his name. Oh, Huisman.
Okay.
He was in Haunting of Hill House. He plays the older brother, Stephen Crane. And he's been in some other stuff. He's been in like World War Z, Age of Adeline. But I think he can play a little bit of a geeky character, which I think the character of Keys is. But I think he still has enough of a presence that he could seem intimidating, right? Because I don't think Peter Coyote's character should seem like a total geek where he's like not intimidating at all.
Right.
You know, he's got to have some authority to him. So I feel like that, from what I've seen of him, I think he would play that well, having a little bit of a presence and a command, but then also being kind of geeky and nice.
Right.
So I would say him. And I also think he's not a big enough name that it would detract. I think he's like that perfect balance of he's done some stuff, but he's not super well known. Most people he's not like a household name.
Right.
You know?
Right. That's fair. My shout out. This is still a name. So
That's okay.
It's the best I can do. I'm gonna go for Mary, the mom. I'm gonna go for Emily Blunt. I think I could see her playing a role where she's the balance of being too busy and being stressed and trying to handle things and get things done and being sort of driving forward, but without losing the heart of still being a mom that cares.
Yeah.
I think an actress like Emily Blunt could pull something like that off and make it believable.
I agree. I love Emily Blunt. I think she. I don't think you've seen A Quiet Place, right?
I have seen A Quiet Place.
Oh, you have seen A Quiet Place. Okay.
I
say I think she did a really good job in that film as well as like a mom character. She's not quite the same as like being too busy,
right?
But it's similar. Like she's kind of caught up in her own stuff in that film at the same time, and you know, not everyone's paying attention to each other all the time. So
right.
I think it's got a somewhat similar vibe to it.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
Okay, so related recommendations. If you love this film, you might like...
I have two movies. One I already mentioned, which is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yep.
It's a different flavor. This is the chocolate to vanilla or strawberry to chocolate in terms of ice cream flavors of Steven Spielberg's Alien movies. But it has similar feels. It came before, I think it was done about 5 years or so before E.T. roughly. And it's another one that's just it's a different take. It's more of the adults. It's not about the kids, it's about the adults and them having an awakening as a response to an encounter with an alien sighting or what they think is an alien sighting, and it leads them on this journey to figure out what's going on. And there's a lot, like I said, there's a thread of that mystery that pulls you through it, which is interesting from a plot perspective, but there's also a lot of depth from the characters too, and what they are learning about themselves, how they're dealing with their families who did not experience this in the same way, or at least our main character, Richard Dreyfuss. And it's a really good watch. It's classic Spielberg. It has very similar feels to E.T. though in that way. Also John Williams with the music. So, and you get a lot of family chaos as well if you like that sort of thing. This one has that too. The other one that I've got is Super 8, which is very much based on sort of a combo of E.T. and the Goonies. Done by J.J. Abrams, who created Super 8 sort of as an homage to these types of films, these sort of 70s, 80s films with kids, an adventure and an unexplained encountering with supernatural things or seemingly supernatural things. That's a pretty good movie. It captures the feel of that era, but with a modern take on it. Or not really a modern take. It's just like a modern recreation, more, if you will. It's really told in a way that's feels like a 70s or 80s movie does, and the time period matches up as well. So it's a good watch, and totally fits this theme. I think if you liked E.T., that movie would tick the boxes for you as well.
I have heard Super 8 described as this generation's E.T. So it's, funny you say that. I've never seen Super 8, so I probably should. I have not seen either of the films, actually, and both have been recommended to me because I'm an E.T. fan. So I would say that those recommendations hold water, just based on that alone.
Wonderful. What do you have?
I have a super just basic one, which is just Jaws, because it's, Steven Spielberg and it's John Williams. And I think the things I love about Jaws are the same things I love about E.T. for the most part. In E.T., it's not just the sci-fi family flick. In Jaws, it's not just a creature feature, right? They have the human elements that really ground it, and I think that's what elevates both of them. I don't think Steven Spielberg knows how to make a film that's just whatever, right? Just a dinosaur movie, just an alien movie, just a shark movie. He doesn't do that. So, I would say Jaws is my recommendation if you loved E.T. and really any coming of age film, I guess. Because I think for me, I just love coming of age films in general. So I was bound to love E.T. It was just not going to be any other way. The question was just how much I was going to love it. So
fair, but hey, to take the top spot among your coming of age stories is still a mighty feat. So
indeed.
Yeah. I agree with your take on Jaws as well, that it's a movie that obviously has a lot going on for danger and peril in the plot, but it's a moments movie. Mm-hmm. It's a moments movie built on characters and conversations that don't have a whole lot happening, but that's where the true depth and richness comes from that movie. And for most of Spielberg's movies, that holds true for most of those, is that it's not just about what's happening. It's in the small moments within what's happening where you find the gold.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great way to wrap the episode.
Indeed. This was fun, Hannah. I'm so happy that you got to do this and finally unveil your soul and everything about E.T. This has been long in the making since we started this podcast. I'm really happy we got to do this.
Yeah, I think I have like a bucket list item checked off now. I was able to just hold a captive audience and talk about E.T. for an extended period of time, which is all I could ever hope for.
Well, it's only downhill from here for this podcast.
Only downhill, yeah. All right, it's been great breaking down this film with you.
You as well, Hannah. Yeah.
All right, and with that,
it's been real.